3 years after the early childhood development programs here in South Africa were moved from the Department of Social Development to the Department of Basic Education, progress has since been mixed. And while participation has grown, experts do warn that many children still start school behind, with inequalities and also gaps in quality limiting developmental success. Our correspondent reports on the gains, the challenges, and what still needs to be done in order to ensure that every child actually gets a strong start. For more on this, let's take you live to Unati Bagyashe.
Well, a very good afternoon. We are in Orange Farm this afternoon at Extension 3, to be specific, at Lusamanzi ECD, post, of course, the National 2026 budget. Our key focus today is basic education, early childhood development, to be specific. Well, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, you will recall, has called this budget a fiscal turning point, saying years of tough consolidation are beginning to steady the ship. But beneath that message of, stability lies a hard truth, and that is why we're here today. In 2026, government will spend 432.4 billion rand servicing debt. The hard truth, of course, is that it is more than what we allocate to basic education. So in other words, for every 100 rands government spends this year, 16 rands 20 cents goes to servicing debt, more than what is allocated to basic education at 13 rand 43 cents as an example. So those are the numbers. And when we delve deeper, the reality on the ground, begins to tell a story, not just a fiscal reality, but a generational warning. I'll be in conversation very shortly with the principal of the school. She founded the school, and in fact, we come at a time where it is the 9th anniversary since when she started the school. It was burnt down, but she had to work her way up. This conversation is not an abstract one. It's about what happens right here in the school, in communities like Orange Farm, in places like Deep Sloot, Lusikisiki, Kaili, Chagiani, Khaleshiwe in the Northern Cape, rural Eastern Cape villages, where overcrowded classrooms still exist and are still a problem. So this afternoon, we're really asking the question, if early learning is the foundation of everything, are we investing like it is? All right, I'm now joined by the principal and the owner of Lusemanzi Early Childhood Development, and that's Lorato Duma, as well as Nyaratsu Mutanya, the author of the new report by Breadline Africa, examining the gains and the gaps in the ECD system. You will recall, of course, that 3 years ago, the ECD system was moved from the Social Development Department to the Basic Education Department. So, ladies, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, discussing a very serious conversation here. Nyarantu, let me start with you. So 3 years ago, on the 1st of April, 2022, over 3 years ago, actually, ECD systems moved in from, the Department of Social Development to now the Basic Education. So the report is quite comprehensive. Just take us through what you found, but perhaps let's start with the gains that have been made.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. So we have seen a lot of gains since ECD was moved from DSD to Department of Basic Education, obviously 3 years ago. Obviously, just bringing in some structure right to education itself, to early childhood development. We already know the importance that early childhood development plays in just in the education continuum, but also the contribution that it does, just to the economy in South Africa. So it's really important that the National Department of Education realize that it's really important that they take that responsibility over, so that it's not just a social welfare issue, but it's now a real education issue. So we've obviously seen some structure there, just in terms of them making sure that they start taking ECD seriously. I'm not saying that they were not taking it seriously, they were, but also just moving it from DSD to DBE is really commendable, right? Making sure that there's also the curriculum that they follow, that just bringing in structure and at a national level, ensuring that there's policy, just all those benefits and those gains, just realizing that this is not a social welfare issue, but it's actually an education issue, and it's really important that we focus on just the early childhood development part, because if we don't, we lose the plot.
Yeah, and I want to just, before I bring in Olorato, I just want to talk about just some of the stark numbers that we are seeing. I mean, there are a couple of studies that have been done. The Pearl study shows that 81% of children cannot read for meaning by age 10. I mean, that is quite worrying. It continues. The Thrive by 5 index shows that more than half of children begin schools already behind. I mean, just speak to us about what this means practically, and also the reform, if any gaps can be found there.
Yes. So obviously the statistics that you've given us, it's sort of like a reality. It shows that it paints a full picture of what's happening in the education space in South Africa. Like you're saying, by grade 4, it's very difficult for children to read for meaning. But at ECD level, the recent Thrive by 5 index report that you just referenced actually shows that it's only 42% of children between the age 4 and 5 that are actually ready for grade R. So if you look at early learning outcomes, different domains there, they're really struggling on fine motor skills, gross motor skills, literacy, numeracy, and cognitive function as well. So it's really important that we deal with the reality. We look at what the statistics are telling us, and obviously these statistics are really showing us that there are systemic challenges in the space that everybody should focus on, not just the the government, but also NGOs, also organizations, or even investors or funders that are funding in the ECD space. There's lots of issues to look at. You just don't look at learning outcomes and address that, but you also need to look at health issues affecting these children at an early age. You need to look at nutrition as well, because a child can't really focus in class if they are hungry, or they've got they are stranded, or they've got kwashiorkor, or they've got all these illnesses and diseases coming from health and nutrition. And obviously the home environment, right? It's also important. Just the parents, are they supported? Do they understand what's happening with their child? Because learning does not just happen and end in classrooms, it also happens at home. So these statistics or these numbers are sort of like a wake-up call, to all of us to say, let's play the part. We've got the numbers here. We've done a lot of studies. The numbers are showing us that there is a lot of work that needs to happen, and obviously just supporting the ECD principals like Lerato, and supporting everybody who is in the ECD space. All these go-go's and women, most of them are women, but I'm also not saying that they're not. We've also seen a few men there in the space, but just making sure that they are supported, not just with infrastructure, but with funding. Just also making sure that the ECD practitioners themselves are skilled and they're trained, and they've got everything that they need.
Ranzo, let me then welcome Olorato. I mean, we had conversations before this interview, and just listening to what you are saying about just some of the things that a person like Olorato has to, be cognizant of when they open an ECD, and what children actually need. So let's firstly talk about your establishment. I mean, it is a beautiful establishment. I'm looking at different classrooms. They're all aged 4 to 5 behind me, 5 to 6 in front of me, and the younger ages as we go on. When did you start, and how has it been?
Thank you for having me. I started 2013 January. It's been hectic in a way, however, good and bad. But starting an ECD center, it's not easy. Challenges are there, but because of passion, the community pushed with us, and we are where we are today.
And I like what you say about the community pushed with us. So we are at Extension 3, but you'll give me the full name. And I see that there's quite a large, community, a sense of community here. But this conversation we're having is not just an abstract one, right? We are talking about real communities. We're looking at all communities, not only the one here in Orange Farm, Eastern Cape. There's so many challenges too. How difficult was it for you to rally the community behind, this establishment, and to get the support from parents, to get the support from communities? I know it has not been an easy journey for you.
It was not easy. One, the community didn't know me. So what I did, I attended the community meetings and introduced myself. And within the community, there are few that will agree with you, and others will just say, no, not this one. It was not easy, but bit by bit, I managed to win their love and win their hearts. Then we started this beautiful structure, and it was not as beautiful as it looked like this. It was hectic. We started in a small shack, and we had so many children. Overcrowding was one of the things when we started here. So community, eventually, they started to like and love us.
And these partnerships obviously help, outside of government, partnerships like Breadline. But I saw a garden, a vegetable garden. Nyaransu was talking about nutrition also being important. The big question is, are you getting the necessary support? So speak to us firstly about why the need, to have and create a garden, and to what extent does it feed, the children's needs, and just the challenges around nutrition and infrastructure, as Nyaransu has also said.
Nutrition is a challenge, I think, nationwide.
Yeah.
We really need a support on nutrition in a daily basis. Sometimes I normally say, I wish our government were supporting us the way they support the schools, having a nutrition program. However, we know that we are getting the subsidy. It's not enough. Having a vegetable garden is also important. Children are eating fresh from the ground, and it's something that we plant and we nurture it. Not only about eating, about learning. Sometimes we even take our little ones to go and have their own plants and look at the plants when they grow. So it is important. Nutrition, there's no way a child can learn when they're hungry.
Yeah.
And if we get support, then we'll be able to educate children. Learning in an empty stomach is the same as you are not doing anything. So we are, as an ECDs, in need of help or in need of support coming to the issues around nutrition.
Nyaransu, in the intro, we talked about the finance minister delivering that budget speech not too long ago, and the fact that more money is actually going to be spent on servicing debt, more than in education and more than in health. I mean, if you break it down further, if you look at 100 rands that government is going to be spending, 16 rands, something of it goes to servicing the debt, and only 13 rands, 43 cents, I think, goes to education. So one wonders then, if we are saying that learning, early learning rather, is the foundation of everything, do you think we are investing enough in it then?
So the work that they're currently doing is commendable, right? We appreciate the contribution of the work, even the 2400 a day subsidy for for the children, 2400 a day per child. It is commendable, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So the policy frameworks are really great. So we've got a great policy setup or policy framework, but there is uneven or unequal opportunities. If you look at some like this community where we are right now, or some communities that are poorer, you compare them to those communities that are better off. Maybe both parents are employed or even have access to economic opportunities. It's really difficult in communities like your informal settlements, poorer communities that don't even have anything, even from home. Their home environment is really difficult. So there is a lot of work, like I think what she said, that the government should be doing, not only in health and nutrition, but also in supporting these ECD centers, even just also getting, the ECD practitioners get salaries right from the money generated by the ECD centers. But with some, data where that actually points out that some of these ECD centers are not getting government subsidies, so they really struggle. So they don't have, they're not financially viable because of that. So there is a lot of work that the government should really focus on, and I think it would be easier for them if they unpack, if they look at health, what exactly are they doing, and identify priority districts or municipalities offer support, look at nutrition, look at learning outcomes and ECD practitioner training as well, look at lots of domains that they need to look at. And we know that in KwaZulu-Natal recently, the ECD centers, they were really suffering. So besides them getting Banapele registration, but it's been difficult for them to get access to those subsidies, even though they are compliant, they've got all the requirements or supporting documents needed, but because KZN is really struggling with with budgets and finances, it's difficult for them to pay the ECD centers that daily subsidy. So there is a lot of work. While it's commendable, there's still some gaps that are there that I think the government should really focus on. And everybody else, like I said, it must not just be the government. It's also people like us that are interested in the space, also our strategic partners as well, like really making sure that we work as a team to ensure that we provide holistic services to the children in need.
Yeah. And Loretta, I'm going to talk about, if money was no object, what would you like to see immediately change at your centers? Because I know you own 3 centers, which is also commendable. But I want to go back to a topic that we touched, the concern about the extent of education these children are getting. I mean, when we look at the numbers of the study that we talked about earlier, 81% of children cannot read for meaning by the age of 10. How worried are you about, just some of those statistics that you are hearing? And in fact, even when some children leave ECDs, only about 40% of them are really ready to go to big school, as I can call it. I mean, are you worried about, those statistics? And I would imagine your teachers are also worried about that?
I am worried. Let us take it back to the setup of a school. Let us take it back to infrastructure and picture a classroom that is overcrowded. Having children that cannot read and write, it doesn't start there. It doesn't start at high school. It started way back, whereby a teacher has more than 40 children in a classroom, overcrowded. Children are overcrowded. How are the teachers going to educate in the class, to reach out to children individually? Remember, children are not the same. Others, they are still slow to learn, but because of time, because of the class already is overcrowded, the teacher cannot do justice to the children. That is where it started. It is worrying that a child in grade R, a child in standard 4, in grade 4, grade 5, grade 8 cannot read and write. It is a challenge. And another challenge is that if us in the foundation level, we are losing it, then we have killed the entire life of the child. If we get support, curriculum, if we get support of training, ongoing training to our practitioners, ongoing support, then we will avoid such.
I would imagine then your answer to my question, if you had any amount of funding, it would probably go, to training. But fundamentally, when we look at all of these challenges, infrastructure, and also the well-being of a child from a nutrition perspective, what is the one thing that just, keeps you up at night and you would like immediate intervention from government, from corporate partners, from NGOs that you would like to see?
I'm still saying our education system. We need a lot needs to be done on our education system. It can be training of teachers. It can be monitoring. You can bring so many books. You can bring books, you can bring tablets, you can bring whatsoever for us to teach children. If you are not monitoring, then there will be a problem. You can bring them and on the other side might not be received well. On the other side, the teachers might be active, dedicated, but not knowing how to use the material that you've gave us. That's the reason I'm saying monitoring, support. When you come and monitor the documents that you gave us, when you come and monitor if we did well according to the stationery that you have brought us, the crayons, everything that is educational, when you bring them and monitor us, then we will move. So let the money goes to education.
Yeah. Nyaran, so we can't not talk about inequality in this country. I mean, some ECDs are better than others. We look at those that are in the urban areas. I mean, we are currently in Orange Farm in Extension 3. This ECD center looks quite commendable. I mean, we know that they are mobile clinics. But Loretta also has other, ECD centers in the middle of Imikuku, where some parents can't even afford to pay. The question about inequality, what would it take, for us to make sure that all of these structural problems are eradicated? I know it's early days, since that move, but it is becoming urgent.
Yeah, it is, yes, inequality in South Africa, like you said, it's quite rampant, and it does affect poorer communities, like you said. And it's really important, like I said, that the government really is intentional about checking, or even at district level, like getting the monitoring data that she was talking about, and then ensuring that there is access and quality in these. It's because it's two elements, or it's two main outcomes. If you want to measure grade error readiness, you look at access, you also look at quality, right? But then how many of these informal settlements are we missing, right? How many of these hidden populations are there that we don't know about, that don't even have access to quality education? Even the issues of quality, like you rightfully said, you can't compare a well-to-do area in comparison to a poorer one. They don't have access to books, literacy. I think she mentioned storybooks already. So if you want to measure, or if you want to impact literacy and numeracy, they need to have access to these resources. And obviously, the poorer communities are the most affected ones. I can't even speak about food, like she's already mentioned, and health and nutrition. So if they don't have like the basic resources that they need in poorer communities, very difficult for them to be ready for big school, like you said, or for grade R, or even for the foundation phase. You then see that in these communities, this is where we have like lots of dropouts as the children continue in the education continuum. They also have, they even progress with learning gaps. Some of them are just progress to the next grade, but then as they get to high school, they're not even ready for matric. They're not even ready to get into, get to university, because some of them have dropped off. Some of them, have failed matric. Some of them did not even get there. So you just don't look at the foundation phase or the early learning phase. You also look at the after effects that comes with not fixing things at the bottom when it's really early. And even if you look at the Heckman curve, we've got lots of research. I think we spoke about data earlier on, actually shows that highest return on investment, you can actually see it amongst the children when you invest in them when they are below the age of 5. So you need to start early, make sure that you target those areas that don't have access to opportunities, or that can't even afford to pay school fees. There are some parents that even can't afford to pay maybe 300 rand or 400 rand that the ECD is charging, and then take the children away from school. So all those issues should be looked at.
Look, as we wrap up our conversation, Nyarazu, maybe let's answer this question. Is it a question of funding, or is it a question of implementation?
It's for me, it's both funding and implementation. She mentioned that if they could really benefit, ECD centers could really benefit if the government would maybe introduce a nutrition program in these ECD centers. It's beautiful that they have a food garden, right? They're able to feed the children. But imagine the impact that it will have if the government could also invest into that, just like they do the National Schools Program at a primary or high school level, right? And then also making sure that on the implementation side, look at what happens in public health. They are very organized. I know that there was also funding that came from USAID as well, but it's sort of like really mapping who is in the area, making sure that you're not double counting, there's no research fatigue in these ECD centers, and ECD organizations are working as a team, right? So it's also on the implementation side, and with DBE taking central role or coordination of what happens at a municipal district level, because if they don't do that, then we have unlayered sort of like support provided to these ECD centers. So it's a lot that it's both implementation and funding.
All right, thanks for that, Lorato. Let's end with you. And I mean, your heart's in it. You have had this very school that we are at burnt down, in fact, 9 years to the day. So the final question perhaps is to ask you, what keeps you wanting to come back every morning to take care of these children, and of course to create employment?
We had few accidents whereby children are being abused, children are left uncared for. That's the reason I kept on coming. I kept on wanting to see those children tomorrow giving a testimony to say that I was abused, but there is that woman that came and rescued me. In our center, we don't only have children that are paying fees. We do have children that are not paying fees. I went literally to their homes and visit their homes, and I find that families are in pains. And then I removed children. I said, at least in the morning until after hours, let them be with other children. Let them be where they belong, playing with their peers, getting education, getting a meal, a decent meal, until they go home. Then they will face with whatsoever that they are going through. Then I took them in. I accepted them without even fees. Not all of them, but we have few that are coming without any income from their parents, because you find that both parents are not working. So it's a child that is suffering most.
Lorato, thank you so much for that and for speaking to us. Lorato, thank you so much too for your time. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much to our guest, Lorato Duma, who has basically dispelled that even when you delve deeper into the stark numbers, there are people like her who really care for the communities that they live in and really want to see growth, especially in the sector, the ECD, and of course, Nyaradzu Mutanya, the author of that report by Breadline Africa, just talking about the gains as well as the gaps following that move by the ECD centers in 2022 from the Social Development Department to basic education. From us here, it's goodbye.